To me, the mention of this very word conjures up the image of an iconic personality possessed of supernatural ability to appear and disappear at will. While the samurais fought an outer warfare, the ninja hid in the shadows and struck without a warning. With a controversial code of honor, the ninja uses trickery and deception, speed and agility to accomplish maximum sinister performance. But how far are these common conceptions applicable to today's modern day world? And who, if any, of today's world would qualify as a modern day equivalent?
Kawasaki Ninja 300 undoubtedly has all the earlier mentioned attributes, and I fear that this time it has struck its blade right to the competition's bone, making it an uncontestable champ of accessible sports bikes.
The old Ninja 250R was a benchmark and a name to be reckoned with, until status quo was changed by Honda through the launch of its CBR 250R. But if this is to be the successor of the old Ninja 250R, then we are glad they did not try to build a completely new value for money product, but instead decided to provide more value for the premium that the new Kawasaki Ninja 300 demands.
If you look at it when it's hiding in its shadows, the new Kawasaki Ninja 300 is perhaps the best looking bike in the world. The front dual headlamps look like the ZX636, its windshield like the ZX10R, and the side fairing fins and the wheels like the ZX14R. But I won't be boring you to death by describing all the new changes in words. Instead, you'll be in agreement with me if I'm just to say, let the bike do all the talking.
There are no two ways about it. The engine on the 300, the new engine, will make you fall in love with this bike because it's outstanding. And a lot has gone into making the old 250cc parallel twin engine even better. So to start with, the new engine is more compact and it now boasts of an increased cubic capacity of 296. The port and intake valves diameter has increased by 1 mm, the connecting rods are shorter, and the new engine features lighter aluminium cylinders and shorter pistons to keep the high revving nature of the Ninja intact. It has also given the 300 a 13K redline. So all of these changes and the redesigned exhaust has boosted the torque curve. I mean, you can feel it as early as 4,500 RPM as compared to 7,000 RPM on the 250. What that means is riding this bike in the city and on the highways is so much easier, and it requires very few gear changes, as was the case with the old 250. To extract the most of this new potent engine, the 6-speed transmission too has gone through a change, and it now features a roller type shift drum, which basically means that the gearbox on this Ninja is no longer clunky. It is smooth, it is precise, and it works efficiently even when you're quick shifting. Some of the other changes include lower compression ratio and a larger 2.4 litre oil tank with cooling fins. These have been introduced by Kawasaki to keep the operating temperature of the engine at a lower level. But they were not working that great because the 300 still seemed to heat up a fair bit, especially in stop-go traffic. But then the new Kawasaki air management system proved to be quite handy because it actually deflects all the hot air coming from the engine away from the rider to the bottom of the motorcycle through new air ducts which go behind the radiator. So that's a welcome feature on this bike because engine heating up was quite a big issue on the old 250 as well. I was left a little disappointed with the braking on this bike because it has the same 290 mm front pedal disc And even though the feedback is alright, it definitely does not have the same bite as the old 250, something which I really loved on the old bike. Having said that, the 220mm rear pedal disc is a lot better on this one because it doesn't lock up as easily, which is great for people who are new to biking and are looking at this as a good learner's bike.
When it comes to rider comfort and ergonomics, be it for long tours or for spirited riding, or pillion comfort for example, the Kawasaki Ninja 300 is a considerable improvement over the old 250R. With 30.9 inches as the saddle height, the tapering seat at the tank maximizes riders' pavement reach and comfort. Furthermore, the mirrors are pushed further away from the body, have a larger surface area for greater visibility. The rubber foot pegs have been replaced by aluminium ones, and that adds to the super sport feel once again. What you also get by default on this bike is bungee cord hooks, which is a good thing because this bike's pretty good at long tours too. Apart from that, another standout feature is the integrated grab rails. Now these are not jutting or popping out from the tail, but are rather placed very cleverly onto the underneath of the tail. Now since the engine's very smooth and a lot more refined, what you don't have at the rider foot pegs is tingling or buzzing sensation due to vibrations. You may get some of it between 12,000 to 13,000 RPM, but that's way high up in the rev range, so much so that you can ignore it. At about 4,000 to 4,500 RPM though, a clear buzz can be sensed at the pillion footrest.
The Ninja 250 was a real sweet handler. It felt planted in corners as well at really high speeds. But it was still a really lazy turner. And by that I mean, it took quite some effort to put the bike into corners. This is where the 300 really excels. Redesigned and wider handlebars, mass centralized compact engine and revised riding position see the 300 enter corners with a lot less effort. And once in, it feels stable as a rock because of its increased wheelbase, new rigid chassis and swing arm, and of course the wider 140mm rear tire. The bike feels great in corners and on highways alike, but I think the 300 can do with better tires because right now it comes with IRCs and I wasn't too impressed because they do take quite some time to heat up, and that really saw the rear spinning a lot yesterday when it rained. So in wet conditions, it was quite scary to ride this bike around corners. But the most impressive feature in this segment is the new clutch, which comes with a assist and slipper function. It has made the Ninja 300 an even better track tool and a learner's bike. The clutch is so much easier to operate, it's so much more precise, and it really reduces wheel hop when you're downshifting.
Just spotted Sagar doing his final round of testing maybe. So before we move on to our conclusion with the verdict, and as Sagar puts on his final rounds of testing at these hills, we take the time out to summarize what the new bike is. The new Kawasaki Ninja 300 is an absolutely different personality when compared to the older 250R. The inclusion of slipper clutch was an interesting proposition. I must say that I have come to become a fan of it. The absence of ABS on this bike was a slight disappointment, but then as Kawasaki officials clarified that inclusion of ABS would mean a fair bit of complex considerations. The road conditions, riding habits, and of course also the commercial reasons. For the bike would be a good 35,000 rupees extra if it had come with the ABS unit. Sagar must be done with his final rounds of testing. Call him in for the verdict. See you at the verdict location.
You know what? I'm not coming in. I'm gonna do the verdict right here on the bike. But that's how much I've enjoyed riding this bike. And as far as the verdict goes, I think this is undeniably a very, very worthy successor to the best-selling quarter-liter bike in the world. I mean, it has pretty much everything which the Ninja 250 did not have. And everything that the Ninja 250 did, well, this one does it better. But then, it does have a negative point. And that is It comes with a very hefty price tag of 4 lakh rupees, which would take this bike away from a lot of bike enthusiasts. But for all of you guys who can afford this machine, well, after testing it, after riding it extensively for 2 days, I can safely say that you're going to get more than your money's worth.
When it comes to comfort and ergonomics for the pillion rider, or when it comes to comfort,
Looks pretty comfortable.